welcome to our second half of 2020 review, part 2 of our 2020 review. And we're joined once again by the Exile Dub, Tommy Lyons, and of course Barry Drake, who it may be a week later when you're watching this, but he's still suffering from a hangover from Limerick's victory in the All-Ireland success. Despite the fact that he's from Youghal, he has nothing absolutely to do with Limerick. Anyway, lads, we're going to kick off this second half of the review with more Derby glory for the Irish, this time across the pond at Nottingham, having finished first, second and third in the English Derby in 2019 with Prices Blake, Ballymactaz and Skywalker Logan. Well, we were to produce another 1-2-3 in the final of the 2020 English Derby. This time, Dearjet Sydney landing the spoils for Kenny Glenn and Pat Buckley. Second was Ballydoyle Valor for Graham Holland and Coolavany Chick for Noel Hare back in third. Of course, we had a fourth finalist, Wolf, who sadly got hurt in this final. Nothing too seriously wrong with Wolf, thank God, but it was to be his finale. We touched on it in part one, lads. He was a star greyhound. He did get his moment in the limelight, shall we say, by winning the Ladbrokes Easter Cup, and he had a great career. It was sad to see him go out with an injury, but thankfully nothing too serious, and he was right as rain within a few days. Nicky Holland, thankfully, and all the team of the Riverside Kennel kept us up to date via their social channels, which are always very good for updates and the likes. And Wolf, well, thankfully, was well and good. But this one went to the Irish and Dearjet Sydney. A brilliant winner on the night, Tommy. He was the dog that had always really taken to Nottingham. He loved it from the opening round. And on the final, he popped out and made every inch of the running. I always thought he'd get the better of Southwood Jet. I thought Dearjet Sydney probably should have been favoured in the final. Southwood Jet was on the fence, and with Dearjet Sydney in trap 2, it was always likely he was going to find himself in this spot of bother in the early yards. As it was, he missed the kick and never really got involved. In contrast, Dearjet Sydney popped out, made every inch.
Funny, because I thought, I think you talked about it from a very early stage that we had the upper hand in terms of quality. We might not have had a huge rating party, but we definitely had the quality in it. And I think you were kind of certain from the start that we were going to win the competition. Now, as it moved on, I thought maybe Southwood Jet in the semi-final, he overcame trap 1, which can be difficult in Nottingham. I don't know, is that decision made where the Derby is going to be next year? Has that been made yet?
No, not yet.
No, I wouldn't be sorry if it wasn't in Nottingham, I'll be honest about it. Southwood Jet missed the kick completely and kind of gave it to Dearjet Sydney. I was delighted because Barry will probably allude to the all bit in a minute, but Eddie Lingan bred Dearjet Sydney and Smurf Machine, the Litter brothers that were in the final, and to see them go around in front, the two of them go around in front was fantastic. Eddie is from Fermoy in Cork, and he's a regular at Youghal track, a great supporter of the track locally. So I was delighted for that. Of course, Pat Buckley had been trying for a long time to win an English Derby, and it can take a bit of winning. It took Seamus Graham a while, it took Paul Hennessy a while. We go over there thinking we've got the best dogs in it, but it still takes a fair bit of winning. Now, it was a bit of a curtailed competition this year in relation to previous years, but I wouldn't take much away from Dearjet Sydney. He showed terrific pace, and it was a good final, as you said, with a 1-2-3. And Wolf, my old pal, was in the final again. Things just didn't go for him, unfortunately. But he owes nobody anything at this stage of his career. He's been a joy to watch right throughout. So yeah, it was a great result for the Irish and a great result for us locally. Another one of the highlights of the year for us.
Yeah, indeed, Barry, as a man that was waving his Youghal flag at home, it was a special night for anyone down that part of the world. Like, obviously, Dearjet Sydney, Smurfs Machine and Wolf all involved in the final. Incredible for the three greyhounds to reach the final and to all hail from the same part of the world.
Yeah, it was a bit like the All Derby, really. Obviously, Wolf ruled around there. I think Dearjet Sydney clocked around 17.50 in a qualifying trial around Youghal. And Smurfs Machine, who won on debut. I had the pleasure of calling him home that night. Still trying to brush up on my commentary skills. But it was an outstanding victory. And I think all greyhound folk around the country were so happy for the Buckleys to finally win the big one. And you've seen some great scenes after the race. Great scenes after the race as well with Emma Buckley. So it was one of the really special nights of 2020.
Yeah, indeed. You took the words out of my mouth. Emma Buckley, I think the world fell in love with her over those few weeks. She's absolutely bursting with bursting with personality, and she became a real star during the competition. Of course, Pat himself is a bit of a character, sometimes not the most forthcoming in an interview, but you can always see his dry wit is there. And he did come home not just with a Derby winner, but he tells me an 85-inch television also. I'm being joined by a child here. the beauty of television, or beauty of live zooming. So Pat Buckley is an English Derby winner. Go out to mommy. That just goes to show we are filming it live. Anyway, that was my youngest daughter, Saoirse. We move on. No, we won't move on. We'll stay with it just for a second. Dear Justin, he was completing a triple crown, of course, for Pat Buckley. He had won an Irish Derby, he'd won a Scottish Derby, and this was his English Derby triumph. And as I said to you, he arrived home with an 85-inch television to show for his success. There's a funny story about that one. But yeah, a great all in all. Ireland 1, 2, 3 in Nottingham 2 years running. We're unbeaten at Nottingham, Tommy, and you want to see it move from there.
No, I don't particularly enjoy it as a track. I don't think it's a great track. You know, I mean, I'm not an expert on the tracks themselves, but I don't know that it's the fairest of tracks for a Derby final. So maybe back to Toaster.
We'll see. That'll be decided in the coming weeks. Okay, we'll move on, lads. We'll go back to home, and at Shelburne Park, the Juvenile Derby, the stars of the future were starting to light up Shelburne Park. Of course, it kicked off on the eve of the Irish Derby final, as it always does on the Friday night. And the entry included the likes of Skywalker Barry, Miss Joss, Bull Run Norris, Magical Silas, Great Name That, Amazing Champ, New and Sheedy, Deadly Missile, Ballymac Guard, Ballymac Gabo, Night Tornado, Amazing Alice, Darth Vader, Billy's Diva, some real superstars in that. But it was Skywalker Barry who went on to land the spoils. A 1-2 for Mark O'Donovan in the final, no less. His record now boasts 7 wins from 8 starts, Skywalker Barry. A tremendous winner of the night. The draw was the key. Trap 1 in Shelburne Park for a dog with early speed. He hit the front early and went on to win by 2.5 from his fast finishing kennel companion, Deadly Missile. Skywalker Barry, Tommy, I still think we haven't seen the best of this dog yet. He's only had the 8 starts.
No, exactly. We couldn't have. He's only had 8 starts. You said his only defeat was in the semi-final, I think, of that competition. He showed terrific early pace. I thought there was good quality in that final. I thought the performance was probably maybe slightly underrated, because he had this one in the bag. Certainly, if not by the first bend, he certainly has it in the bag by halfway. I mean, he was 3 or 4 lengths clear. And yeah, he came out again and won recently. I think he's a serious dog for next year. I hope he is, at least. I mean, I thought that was a really good performance. Deadly Missile ran a cracker to get up for second place as well. Has loads of ability, a bit of a character, as you'd say. But I think Skywalker Barry is the dog we look forward to. I'd be interested to see what he'd be able to do, because he's only in October. He's not a pup, but he's October 18. So there's plenty of improvement in him. I presume we're going to see him early in the year. Maybe is there a Gold Cup 525?
He seems a natural for the Gold Cup to start off with and see how he goes, and then perhaps then step him up to 550 yards.
Yeah, exactly. I'd like to see him over 525 first. I think that just to see. Now, of course, he can improve and mature. I'm sure he will. But I like what I've seen so far. As I say, I thought that was a good final. I know Ballymac Gabo missed the kick and was never competitive. But it was a good final. New and Sheedy was in there bringing a load of experience into the competition. So I'm quite excited to see what Skywalker Barry can do next year.
Yeah, Barry, obviously he's named to win a Derby with a name like Skywalker Barry. What are your thoughts on the dog?
Yeah, he's definitely well named then, yeah. But yeah, look, he's an exciting greyhound, isn't he, going forward? A similar enough profile to New and Taylor. And, that was a top-class display, obviously, in the final, 28-13. Fantastic clock. And he's definitely a greyhound to follow going forward. And we look forward to seeing him back in action next year.
Yeah, indeed. Just 1 or 2 dogs in the final there. Yeah, the likes of Night Tornado. Darth Vader has actually gone across the pond. He's starting to make waves over there. He's produced 1 or 2 fine displays. Ballymac Gabo, a dog with blistering early speed. So some real talent in that Juvenile Derby final. At Mullingar, the Cesaro, which kicked off on October 3rd, and the final was on October 24th. There were 3 Mina dogs in the final. It was the Cores once again that were really sort of taking charge of this competition. During the earlier rounds, Ripley Ladd had set a track record in the second round, but luck went out the window for him in the semi-final stages. He failed to make the final. The two semis were won by Amazing Alice and Monbeg Zinzan, but we just had that impression that Mina Miracle was going to produce a big run, and she certainly did in the final. She flashed from boxes, made every inch in 32.75. She broke the track record that had been held for a couple of weeks by Ripley Ladd. It was great to see Mina Miracle having reach the Derby final and run so well in defeat, get a classic success, not least for her owner, Michael Corr, and for his entire family, but just for herself, because, you know, her performances through the Derby probably deserved a big race success.
Yeah, she could easily have been a Derby winner, as we spoke about already. I think it was a bit of a taster for what's to come for next year. We saw the bitches dominate the final of that. We saw bitches dominate the final of the National Puppy Stake. Amazing Alice ran a superb race yet again. I thought after her semi-final performance that she might put it up to Mina Miracle, that she might actually break in front of her maybe. It didn't happen, but I mean, the way Mina Miracle ran the track record, you can't do much more than what she did in the final, and it was much deserved. I was delighted to see it because, as you said, Ian, that she was so good through the year, and that litter, the Rios girl litter, deserves something like that. I think they did, because I mean, if you produce that many greyhounds at the very top level, or capable of competing at the very top level, I think you need something like that to make the breakthrough. So I'll be excited to see what that litter can do, or the next litters from Rio's Girl can do. This one were pretty special. So yeah, deserved for the course, and of course an honourable mention for Amazing Alice. She was a terrific bitch too through the season.
She certainly was. The Minas had three finalists, of course. They had first and third. Mina Maverick was third, and Mina Maestro back in the fifth spot. And Barry, Mina Miracle, she was to go on to more classic, not success, but more, you know, great performances in classics in the Ledger. But this was her real night to shine in the final of Cesaro.
Yeah, and most deserved as well, obviously coming so close in the Derby, and it was a real special occasion as well for the Corr family, having three in the final, and to produce a track record display in the final was a remarkable performance. And, you know, so exciting to see her in action this year, because we've enjoyed some great nights watching her, and it was a remarkable display, really.
Yeah, sure it was. We get back to the unraced stakes. We spoke of Tralee, we spoke of Clonmel. One of the traditional great stakes of the year is the Champion Unraced Stake at Kilkenny. That kicked off on August 21st, and the final was on September 11th. At the time, it very much seemed a one-dog competition, with Bull Run Norris really lighting up the early rounds, and he was to suffer a shock defeat in the final. I thought at the time that it was a bit disappointing, but in hindsight, the winner of that competition has just taken a jump forward since. Deadly Samurai was probably a dog that was just coming to hand through that unraced stake at Kilkenny, but since then he's been absolutely electric. He's a real greyhound for next year. Bull Run Norris is still a fantastic greyhound. He slightly went off the boil after this competition, but I've no doubt we'll see him back to his very best in 2021. They're two very, very fast greyhounds, but Deadly Samurai is a real speedster, Tommy. This fellow took off at Shelburne Park the other night at the Winter Racing Festival. He's a very exciting dog. You suggested he's a Laurels type dog, and I wouldn't disagree with you. I'd look forward to see him around Cork.
Yeah, because I mean, the pace he shot out of the boxes on the Winter Festival, he just absolutely flew. If ever a race was over in three strides, this was it. He absolutely bolted. He left them all standing, and they were good greyhounds. Ballymac Art is a good bitch who had shown, she had improved a lot through the Oaks and showed a lot of early pace. Pierno as well. So I mean, Deadly Samurai had improved markedly, but that's obviously danger. I mean, we say Bull Run Norris was kind of dominating that, and maybe. But you're always in danger when you come to an unraced competition that there's something improving at a rate of knots. And what was nice about it was that not only did he, I know he only won by a short head that night, Deadly Samurai, but improved again and is continuing to improve. And the last time we saw him was his best performance, I think, to date. So yeah, I think that possibly a classic, certainly a classic contender, whether it be a classic winner or not. Obviously, it's a bit of a step up, but I think Deadly Samurai could be a Ledger or a Laurels dog for next year.
Yeah. Barry, you obviously spoke to Carl Ramsbottom of the podcast, and he thinks a lot of this greyhound.
Yeah, he sure does. And, anytime you see a greyhound post like 28-82 around Kilkenny, you have a star. Phenomenal early pace. And, Carl Ramsbottom is chasing classic glory. So I'm sure he'll have high hopes going forward with this very classy tracker.
Yeah, very classy tracker indeed. Tommy, you suggested last week he could sort of go down the Grange U10 road if they want as well. He's a dog you could see winning sprints, no question about that. Bull Run Norris, it's just worth pointing out that he did improve through the early rounds. He got better and better with each round, and in the final it just didn't happen for him. He was carried wide in the opening corner, was staying on stout. He was just beating a short head in the 28.82. A fine run around Kilkenny, but he has gone even faster. I have no doubt he'll be back next year. I think he's a very, very exciting tracker. Funnily enough, it was Carl Ramsbottom himself, despite the fact that he had the winner of the competition, he told me Bull Run Norris was as good a pup as he's ever seen around Kilkenny, and I think Carl has seen some plenty of good ones around there. We're moving on. There was a certain competition started in September 24th and finished on October 24th. Barry, you might have an opinion on it. It was the friends and supporters of Cork Greyhound Racing, Irish Laurels. It was another vintage renewal. We saw the likes of Grange U10, Brody's Magic and Ballymac Anton starring in the early rounds, but Running to See Ya also made his sent out his intentions in the early rounds with a fine opening round success, especially. The draw through this competition was always going to be very important. We saw the likes of Brody's Magic and Grange U10 going right through to the semi-finals, and we thought at that point it was going to come down to a battle between those two, perhaps in the final, if all went to plan. And there was real drama in the semi-finals, of course. There was a dead heat for third spot between Drewby's Hamish, who has since been bought and travelled across the water, and Grange U10. Grange U10 was to be pulled out. Obviously had a small little niggle, didn't feel it would be fair enough on the dog to run him on the Tuesday in a rerun, and then following Saturday in the final if he did manage to go through. As it was, he never managed to hit the track again. Nothing too major wrong with him, but they just decided that the time was right to retire him coming into winter, and he was going to take a few weeks to be right in himself, so decided no, enough was enough for Grange U10. He was a great servant. He didn't take his place in that runoff, and as a result didn't make the final of the Laurels. His place went to Drewby's Hamish, who ran reasonably well in the final itself. He actually finished fifth, but he's not beaten all that far. But on the big night, Brody's Magic was perhaps the one they had to beat. He was out in the striped jacket, but had the early speed to get to the front. On this occasion, though, he didn't quite get to the front early enough, and Running to See Ya got up to land the spoils by a short head from Blast Off Fire. It was a cracking Laurels, Tommy. Perhaps not quite the same standard of final as 12 months earlier, but at the same time, a very good winner.
Look, it was a brilliant result. People who've been watching this maybe through the year will know that I'm a huge fan of Brody's Magic, and I didn't give him much chance in the final because of the draw. Even regardless of the draw, I was kind of concerned that he had been missing the kick in previous rounds. He showed electric pace. I mean, he showed pace that is probably up there with the very best dogs in Ireland to get to the front in the final of the Laurels. But it was just a great result. Locally, I always think if the best dog wins it, then you've got a great result. Other than that, you're looking for a good story. And I was delighted for Johnny Linehan. It was important success for Johnny. He's been a great trainer for a very long time. Winning his local classic is extremely important. You could see what it meant to him on the night. They had a very tough 2020 losing Bartley. He was an integral part of the team in the kennel for the Linehans. Bart was one of the great characters around Curraheen Park, and he will be seen throughout the country at Greyhound Sport. He's a big loss, not just to Johnny, but to the entire racing community, not only in Cork, I say that right throughout the country. He was well known. He was a great character. Look at it. Johnny was very emotional on the night, Running to See It getting back up. It was an exciting finish. It turned out to be a brilliant race. I mean, it changed maybe two or three times. Brody's Magic looked like he had missed the kick, he couldn't win. Then he looked like he was going to win. Then Blast Off Fire looked like the opportunity was there to steal it. And then Running to See It just found that little bit extra. It was an exciting final, but the most important thing was the story. Johnny Linehan winning this, a special year to do it. Johnny will win plenty more of these down the line. I'm absolutely convinced of it. He's too good a trainer not to. But the breakthrough success in the poignant year, I think, for the Linehan Kennel, so I'm just delighted for them.
Yeah, there's not an awful lot to add to that, Barry, but in a sense where you've been the Cork man, you know exactly Johnny Linehan and what it meant to him. It must have been a very emotional night for you.
Yeah, definitely. Look, local Cork trainer who has enjoyed some great success down through the years. He's been trying to win this for a long time. So for it to happen was certainly a real special occasion. There were so many special occasions throughout 2020, but this is up there, and a very fitting and most deserving winner. And even his owners, they are great supporters of the game, and we've seen some great interviews as well. So yeah, it was just a perfect result for me.
Yeah, it was a cracking laurels from start to finish. Running to see it though did on the night have enough in hand to hold off Blast Off Fire in a thrilling finish. Just another mention there, the likes of which is Ethiopia was in the final, of course, top class picture for the Toomies, and our old pal Ballymac Anton. The last time he would race, and it was the first time in his career that he would finish last. He wasn't beaten all that far. He didn't run a bad race or anything like it, but the only time in his career to finish last. That's pretty incredible.
He's an incredible greyhound. Anybody be lucky to have a dog like him, or in their entire life have one dog like him. The Dowlings are a little bit spoiled by their own, hard work, I suppose, because they've been breeding for years and training for years, and successfully so. But he's just been one of the stars. He mightn't have, he didn't win a derby, but at the same time, he won about just about everything else. So yeah, he's been a special greyhound. They finished, there was only about 3.5 lengths, I think, between first and last in the Laurels final. So I don't think he lost much in defeat. He just missed the kick and just couldn't make up the ground. It wasn't a track that we ever thought would suit him, his type of style. And yes, in one of the rounds, he was able to pop out and lead. Another round, he was able to come from behind and win. So, he's a dog that gave everything every night. A real special dog.
For the second year running, Barry, a really dramatic finish to the Laurels. It's getting a bit of a habit down there.
Yeah, you were trying to blanket over him up towards the finish. And of course, last year, Rocky Bay Foley winning. Still don't know how he won that race, but it has served up some fantastic finishes in recent years, and we've been so lucky to witness some tight finishes. It always makes it more exciting.
Yeah, well, the record books will always tell you the Running to See it was the 2020 Laurels winner, and a good one at that. Moving on. The next classic action was, well, hot in the heels of the Laurels. It was the Friends of Limerick Irish St. Leger, kicked off in the final day of October, and it finished on the end of November 28th. We're only fresh from talking about it. In fairness, it's still very much in the memory. Epic Hero was to turn out a very impressive winner for Tommy O'Donovan and for Ger Hutton. A deserving winner on the night. He flashed out, made every inch of the running, but a cracking competition from start to finish. New In Session, who had been the star of the early rounds in a number of competitions through the year, had been the star of the early rounds in this competition. Unfortunately, luck was to abandon him. Then Ballymac Wild very much took up the baton, and he was, by all accounts, getting better and better through the competition, and it looked all set for him to do a massive run in the final, but missed the kick, sort of went a little bit early, missed the kick, and as a result could never really get involved. He ended up finishing fifth. In the end, Epic Hero was the winner from Cash Ready, who you've heard Barry mention 422 times already, and Mina Miracle, again running an incredible race back in third. The remaining finalists were Oren Don, a great story for him, returning after an injury layoff. He'd been finding top form in recent months, but finishing fourth, running exceptionally well through the competition. And amazing Alice, luck not on her side on this occasion. She was to finish last, but it wasn't her first classic final, and it certainly won't be her last. She'd already been second, of course, in the Ledger, or not the Ledger, in Cesaro, where she finished behind Mina Miracle. Those two pitches, again, reaching this classic decider. But it was about Epic Hero on the night, lads, and it was a fairly emphatic performance, Tommy.
Yeah, it was. The final just goes to show, look, they're greyhounds at the end of the day. They're not machines. Ballymac Wild looked like he'd been peaked to perfection by Liam Dowling. He just looked like he'd been brought to a T. He was steady through the first couple of rounds, peaked in the, or stepped up nicely in this quarterfinal, semi-final, looked the most likely winner, and then just missed it for inexplicably, just missed the kick completely, just mistimed it slightly, and all of a sudden your race is gone. But take nothing away from Epic Hero. We think we spoke enough about it at the time that his semi-final performance, he showed so much pace down the back in defeat behind Cash Ready, the one you fancied him. He showed so much pace in defeat that night that we thought, you know what, he's a player in the final if things go right. And fair play to Tommy O'Donovan, they went right on the final.
It certainly did. Epic Hero making every inch of running. It had been a dog through the year that had just been finding his feet. He'd produced a big run in the early rounds of the Derby Barry 29-19 run, but on this occasion, it just seemed to come together for him. And I dare say he's probably the type of dog that will come on for it again for next year. I think he's a next year greyhound, despite the fact he's already a classic winner. What's your thoughts on it, Barry?
Yeah, a very pacey greyhound and another deserving winner. Obviously, when he hit the ground running, it was game over really after a few strides, and it was the perfect performance from him on the real big night. A magical training performance really from Tommy O'Donovan. He had him in fine shape on the final, and great to win that classic now with such a talented ground. Cash Reddy, of course, posted 2 top-notch performances in the semi-final and final, and connections, as I said last week, we're delighted with that, and they've reinvested with a Ballymac greyhound, so that's exciting times ahead for sure for them.
We could see more from Dean Harper and his pals with the Cash Ready boys. And Dennis Fitzgerald. Yeah, good ledger. But yet, normally we're sort of near the end of the year in the ledger. We generally look forward to maybe a Night of Stars, and that's it. This year, of course, we had more classics to look forward to. The Oaks at Shelburne Park was ongoing at the same time. It kicked off actually the week before the ledger. It kicked off on October 24th, and the final was the week before the ledger. We're getting back to Shelburne Park, and we've spoken of all these top class bitches. Of course, the big names to the fore were the likes of Ballymac Beanie, Droopy's Curio, Swanley Chicken, Ballymac Art. But in the final, it was only about this one greyhound, Ballymac Beanie, for jockey Pat Dobbs, his brother Alan Dobbs, and his wife Kira Varikar. They have a very special lady in the form of Ballymac Beanie. We know, thanks to your podcast, Barry, that she won't be overly raced. We may not see her all that often next year. Perhaps she'll be back to defend her Oaks crown, but we'll always have this Oaks victory for Ballymac Beanie, a very, very special lady. And as luck would have it, she's a half sister to Pastana, and she's very similar in her racing style. Great determination, great early speed, great pace down the back, and she gets to the winning line. She knows how to win, Barry. It's a very, very crucial ingredient in a racing greyhound.
Oh, definitely. Look, she's a very special lady. She was so consistent as well in the competition, and I was definitely happy that she landed the spoils, because a good friend of mine, Damien Gleeson, who actually sourced the bitch for Pat Dobbs and the lads. I was actually in touch with Pat before the quarter final, and I was lining up for the podcast, and he kind of brushed me off. He said, "Look, we'll wait a while. Hopefully she'll do the business." So look, it was great, and great to have a top class jockey involved in our sport, and he's very passionate about the game, and they have high hopes as well going forward. Obviously the reason they bought her was for breeding, so they're planning ahead, so wishing them all the luck going forward.
Yeah, as the daughter of a Derby winner, Ballymac Matt, and the daughter of an incredible brood, Coolavani Pet, who already in her short career as a brood bitch has produced like Spastana, Ballymac Beanie. She is something to get excited about breeding from, Tommy.
Oh yeah, like she took the Oaks by storm. Even the night she got beaten, her only defeat in the Oaks was in the semi-final, and she showed phenomenal pace after getting kind of squeezed up at the first bend by the Swanley chick, was it? She just squeezed up, and then she flew down the back and just didn't know how to get around the one in front. It was a remarkable performance. So I wasn't one bit surprised to see what she did in the final. But it just goes to show you what they can do when bitches get on a bit of a roll, how good they can become. She won her first 5-2-5. It was her run before, a couple of weeks before the start of the Oaks, and it was in an A3. And she went from that to producing phenomenal performances right throughout the Oaks, even the defeat. And then just to top off what was a remarkable end to the season, she went to the Winter Festival and won there as well. So she has everything. She breaks. She's plucky. She tends to, I get the feeling she senses a bit of a challenge behind, and she picks up and finds a bit more. So I think she's fairly special. And I know we won't see an awful lot of her next year, but we'll see enough for just to hopefully she'll retain that ability and maybe even go on a little bit.
Yeah, like she's still a puppy. She's a puppy till January. She's entitled to run the Kirby, the Produce Stakes, anything you want. But you'd imagine defending an Oaks title would be number one on her list of priorities. Declan Byrne is doing an expert job at her too. And I've no doubt that if she is beaten in the future, it'll be nothing to do with Declan Byrne, because he's a very, very shrewd man with a racing greyhound.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, we move on, lads, because we have got more star bitches to talk about. Only in the last 8-10 days, we saw the final of the IGOBF National Puppy Stake. Very much reduced field this year. That was perhaps because Ballymac Ariel perhaps scared off a few of them. She was sensational in her racing debut, even though she was defeated behind Deadly Samurai, she showed incredible pace. She took her place in the IGOBF National Puppy Stake, and by all accounts, after the opening round, we were thinking, well, this one is going to take some stopping at it. Billy's Diva emerged as a serious threat. As it was, they finished first and second in the final, but the winner in particular, Ballymac Ariel, is something absolutely out of the top drawer, Tommy. She's sensational. She did 28-19 in the final of the Puppy Stake. Of course, she had to round Billy's Diva, an explosive boy in the corner who were just getting in each other's way. She took advantage like an old head. We've spoken about her already, but she is pretty sensational, Tommy.
Yeah, there's lots of things to love about the final. We spoke about it. The fact that she missed it slightly, got a couple of bumps, really, more than anything else. Got a couple of bumps early, and yes, she accelerated to get away from those greyhounds around her, and then she sidestepped the trouble in front so easily, and without even slowing down, she was able to sidestep and get around the greyhounds in front. I think it was a pretty special performance, but it just goes to show you how good Billy's Diva is. That Billy's Diva went off 8-11. And she went off 13-8. I know the draw obviously is a factor there, but it just goes to show you how good Billy's Diva is to be able to do that in the market, to get that many people behind her, considering all that we had seen from Ballymac Ariel in her few runs before that. She had broken 28 seconds in her trials. She will smash it next year. I'm expecting track records, hopefully, if she can stay sound and have a little bit of luck. But she developed what I thought, the little bit of early pace that might have been missing in the first couple of rounds or the first couple of races. She seemed to develop a little bit of that in the final, and I'd be hopeful there'll be more to come. So, I mean, she, like, in what is probably going to be a vintage year for bitches, she might just be the best prospect of all.
Yeah, Barry, she's pretty special. Of course, the runner-up is special too. Like, I'm using special an awful lot to describe these, but it just, as Tommy keeps saying, they are a very, very, very talented group of bitches.
Yeah, she's probably the most exciting tracker in the country right now. It was great to see her win again last weekend, and we've just got a wonderful crop of bitches at the moment, and you know they're going to play a big part in all the big competitions going forward next year. I was really talking to Liam Toomey, of course, of the Witches Prefects last week, and I was asking him, well, are you going to Shelburne, which is Ethiopia, of course, who was in the Lord's final, and he was debating it, because he said, like, before you do 28-40, 28-50, and you would have high hopes of going well, but now he said they're breaking 28 seconds. It's just phenomenal, really.
Yeah, I put it to you, lads, next year, like, we're going to have an Oaks where we'll have all these 5-5 yard bitches, or the bitches that have been running over 5-5 for the last few weeks, the likes of the Ballymac Ariel, Billy's Diva, Ballymac Beanie, Droopy's Curio, and, you know, Swanley Chick, all of those bitches that we've been speaking of. And then you add in the likes of Amina Maestro and an amazing Alice, and, you know, all of a sudden you go, wow, like, where do we go from here? Like, they're just unmatchable. It's just an incredible group of bitches. And of course, I forgot to mention Coulivanny Chick, you know, an English Derby finalist. We're moving on, and we'll finish off with the Winter Racing Festival, which took part. Of course, the National Puppy Stake was part of the Winter Racing Festival, and it was a replacement for the Night of Stars this year. And we did see some brilliant performances. Of course, Newen Taylor has run his last race after picking up an injury in the 550. Lenson Bocco has also run his last race. He was retired after the 525 or 575 yard success. A very fine way for him to go out. A very special Derby winner himself last year. It was a cracking night. It was a great way to put an exclamation point at the end of the year, Tommy.
Very much so, Ian, because you could have, you know, it would have been a shame after all the effort that had been put in to ensure that the COVID hadn't destroyed the year entirely. It would have been a shame to kind of let it go out with a bit of a whimper. That was brilliant to step in and have a race of that quality. Yes, it wasn't the Night of Stars, but it was pretty close. I mean, I don't know that you'd have attracted many more greyhounds to the night, regardless of what you had done. I mean, it was top class. Great name. That showed Derby pace. We don't know what he'd have done if he had run clean around a couple of bends, not just get that little bit of trouble or maybe stand a little. Brody's magic. I just love seeing him get his nice win in the sprint. Reds for Ardford. I think he said that might be his last.
That's race. It. Yeah, that's his retirement also. Yeah,
he went out on a high. It was a shame about Lenson. What I said, New Dog. I like the fact, though, in fairness, that Graham Holland had placed Lenson Bocco extremely well. I was doubtful about the 575. Graham was 100% right. And what a fine way for a former Derby winner to go out. It just, to be honest about it, as you say, it capped a year. It capped what was made out to be a great year from what could have been a bit of a disaster.
Yeah, Barry, you were up there in Shelburne Park. You got to experience it firsthand. There was some special racing from start to finish. A few displays that really caught your eye. I know Ballymacbeanie was one of your favourites, but through the night, a great way to finish off the year.
Yeah, it sure was. Look, it was the Night of Stars for me, just a different name. It was marvellous racing throughout the card, and it was a real great night. Such a special place, Shelburne Park, and it was great to be trackside speaking to all the various connections. I really got caught up in the whole excitement of it, and a standout moment for me was the victory of Dana Point, and it was great to see her confirm that form once again on Saturday night. I'm sure you'll talk more about that performance, but speaking to Wally Curtin after the race, he said it was like winning an All-Ireland final, and that's what greyhound racing is all about, and it was a great night.
Yeah, special performance by the stayer Dana Point, announcing her arrival as a stayer of some note. I hope she gets the opportunities in 2021, because the stayers just they're been a little bit left behind at times. But a great night's racing from start to finish. Again, the big winners in the light were the likes of Ballymacbeanie, great name that, Linson Bocco, Glengar Bale, of course, won the 550. We can't forget about that. I know it was a race we've tended not to talk about, but he's a fine greyhound with a big future. Tommy, there's lots to look forward to in 2021. We've had an incredible year, an incredible second half of the year in particular, but lots to look forward to in 2021. I know you're going to say the bitches, but there's plenty more to look forward to. What's standing out for you at the moment? What do you want to see happening?
Well, I'd actually like to see Ballymacbeanie win the Derby, but I'm just, as I said to you last week, I'm just not. We'll see whether she gets the 550. You're pretty confident she will. I think she's pretty special over 525. I'm hoping, and I don't want to put too much pressure on one greyhound for an entire year, because we have the depth of quality that we need. The fact that the 2020 was compressed made the last 6 months so exciting. They're still fresh in our mind. Nearly everything that happened is fresh in our mind. So we're going into 2021, on a high, really and truly. But Ballymacbeanie kind of wrapped up the season nicely for me. I think she's particularly special. I think I saw something in that run the last night in the final that suggests that she's going to be much better next year. And if she is, she's going to be world class. Well, not world class. She's going to be better than anything we've seen before. Not to put too much pressure on the Delvings. They're on one bitch. Anything can happen. It's greyhound racing. They're not machines. But yeah, the bitches. I've worn a pin at this stage talking about the quality of the bitches. But Ballymacbeanie might be the very top of the tree.
Barry, yourself, what are you looking forward to? More yawl success in England, perhaps?
Words up my mouth, Ian. The viewers just keep watching yawl, keep watching these really fast performers in yawl, because the form just stands up all over the world. And recently we see Corin Derrick, a ground that Tommy spoke of in an earlier podcast. I think it was Jordan Delarles. He was in the Jerry Henry on race day, an unlucky loser on that occasion. He came down to yawl and won in 28.82, and Billy McMahon was on to me on Twitter. They have purchased that ground. I believe he's in training with Jim Reynolds, so he's one to watch in the early part next year, or maybe even over the coming weeks if he gets out. But an exciting greyhound, and he'll be flying the flag for yawl, no doubt, going forward.
Okie dokie. Well, over the next couple of weeks, we will be showing the various highlights of your year. We'll be talking to yourselves, as well as many others, those that contributed to this podcast over the last number of months. So keep tuned for that. But that's it. We're going to put our exclamation point on the end of 2020. It's been a strange year. A hard year for a lot of people. It's been a curtailed year, but at the same time, it ended like no year in the past. We've had 6 months of the most incredible racing action, and thankfully there is an end in sight to this pandemic, and hopefully very shortly we'll all be back on track and enjoying these trackers in the flesh, because that's where they deserve to be enjoyed from the stands, cheering them on, and hopefully we'll see more of the same in 2021. But that's it for us for this year, for 2020. Have a very Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year. Hopefully next year will be very prosperous and we'll all be back on track. But for now, best of luck, and again, Happy New Year.